Hey guys, User here. I recently just did a franchise using 8 completely created teams that I handmade myself. It was a painstaking process. This video, I want to talk about my findings and discoveries based off of my ratings adjusted league. The point of the league was to create teams where a 90 plus overall was very rare. A 90 to an 85 were Pro Bowl, second team guys that could basically step in and dominate games and be upper echelon starters. Players below an 85 to an 80 were like decent, solid plug-in players that were not a liability. Anything below a 79 to a 75 would be like a standard default guy that could step in and do the job. And anything below that, you definitely want to draft and try to replace as soon as possible. Now let's dive into this. This might be a little bit longer of a video. My goal was, instead of having teams that had rosters like this, they would look more like this. These teams would have 80, 70s, a few 90s sprinkled in between here and there, but they would not be overly stacked like the current franchise options that you have available. By the default metrics and the default player ratings, you're going to get teams that are absolutely unstoppable. The run games are impossible to stop. The offenses are just super duper overpowered. And even with some better defenses, you're still getting scores in the 50s, 60s, 70s. I've even seen higher. Happy to report most of these user league games were realistically scored. You had back and forth battles. You had a few weeks where there were potential blowouts, some pretty decently low scoring games as well. And I think I can attribute that to, since the running backs were not overpowered, they were able to be tackled and didn't break 30 tackles. So as you went through the season, you saw a ton of these teams that had better running backs realistically reflected that. The teams with worse running backs, of course, struggled to get the ground game going, but here you could see most of the scores, and most of them reflected really realistic football. This was 6-minute quarters, by the way, on the Gridiron Difficulty. Pursuit and acceleration on defense was drastically improved, which then helped a lot of the defenders get off blocks thanks to the offensive lineman ratings being drastically adjusted as well. Pockets broke down much quicker because of the adjusted pass blocking to all of the defenders, which then led to the DBs and receiver interactions greatly improve. Defensive players were actually able to, make DB swats and get in position to make plays. In fixing all the broken press release in this game, the DBs were actually able to get up and press receivers. I know, I hope you were sitting down for that. Some tweaks to pursuit, some acceleration situations, especially lowering a ton of the press release ratings for the offense, really balanced out this game, on top of lowering a ton of the run block ratings and just some other silly things I found. Defenses were actually able to flourish in a lot of these situations. Now on the flip side of that, offensively, teams were still able to move the ball. I didn't nerf them to the point of in-functionality. The offensive linemen were still capable of run blocking. Good quarterbacks could still dice up defenses like this. And even with the ratings skewed in their, at the lower end, these low-end players could still make plays. Like this quarterback you're seeing is like a 75 overall. In the right situation, they could still function. I could even argue that this game makes some of the best looking pass pockets in football video gaming, with these nice, uniquely shaped ones that don't necessarily kill the vibe completely. They're built well, and everything around them seems organic, especially after the ratings adjustments. You don't have all day to stand in there, but you do have the protection and confidence of your team to run block and execute what they're supposed to execute. Madden 26 from the Madden Championship Series, which is a joke, by the way. Just look at how this pocket forms. You have all of these big, weird gaps, and that's just very Madden, where the tackles will be way out here blocking someone. There's this massive bodies, and then you just have these isolated little island players with these huge voids in the middle. It just looks sloppy, weird, and I think Maximum really builds better pockets at this point. And by the ratings, this is like an 86, 87 overall quarterback. I just want to play at speed because I give the commentary perfectly without interruption.
Right up the middle, stares that blitz in the face, delivers a bullet in the clutch. The Gold Tiger deep quarterback is only like an 84, 85 overall. And man, it just shows you do not need to overrate all these players to get good play out of them.
I think as well as feeling the effects of good players and good quarterbacks, you felt the bad players and the bad quarterbacks, their indecision, their bad sacks that they would take, and their errant throws would cost their teams games. I could continue to keep talking positives, but there were a few negative stones we unturned. A lot of logic, a lot of gameplay, and some other elements I also need to touch upon as well. Let's just start with this. It's 4th and 9 in the 4th quarter on your own 36-yard line. What are you going to do here? Oh, throw the ball away. Throw it away. Interesting decision making there. Also, the 2-minute offense and anything before like halftime is just unacceptable. Being in the I form, throwing, here's a play, it's 0 seconds on the clock, they run a pitch play after a timeout. I just don't understand what is happening with some of the stuff. Yeah, if you play in the weather as well, this is all you're going to see the AI do. It's just screen passes and run plays. That's the 2 plays they run. That is it. If you think I'm kidding, test it out on your own. It's not a fucking joke. They don't run anything but screens. I also noticed the AI loves to use this 3 safety set, which is like the prevent defense of this game, way too much. This is like a normal play call that the AI will come out in. This is a 2 tight end formation. I want to repeat that. This is a run set. The AI comes out in this type of set. It's absolutely insane. Biggest letdowns overall was the play of the quarterback I made here for the Storm. He's like a 94.5 overall. I tried to max him out as much as possible. I gave him 2 90+ rated receivers, 1 in the slot, and there's going to be 1 outside here. And a majority of these games, he actively avoids throwing to these players, instead forcing it into like the running backs and the tight ends and things. It was just a lot of really weird decision making like that by the AI that I didn't quite understand. I didn't want him to force the ball all of the time, but in instances where he had one-on-ones on the edge, I would have liked to see him take advantage of that stuff. He just didn't. I also created like a 96 overall defensive end here, and you could see on some of these plays, he just takes over the game. He's unblockable. But for most of the majority of the time I watched him play, this is essentially what you got. He just sort of blended in. There were no times where I felt like this man was unblockable, dominating the game. It was kind of a letdown in a lot of ways. There are also a ton of issues in the franchise mode itself, which I won't harp on too much. When I imported these teams, the AI had to trim them down from like 80 some players to fit a 53-man roster. While doing so, they made some very weird decisions with their rosters, cutting players I specifically made for the teams that were higher rated players, picking up players through free agency to replace guys. There were issues with the playoffs, obviously, trying to sim through them. You can't play the games because it doesn't keep. The end result, though, that I got was the team with the best quarterback ended up winning, even though during the simulation I did of them, they lost. I had to manually sim the game. But overall, I was very impressed with what I saw from the ratings being differentiated from the default ratings in game. I still feel that there are too many 90+ rated players. There are too many 90+ rated speed guys. There are too many elite players across the board. The offensive line and the running backs to me are still really, really overpowered. The 2 teams with the best running backs basically functioned through those two players completely and ultimately. Even the Storm that won the league championship had a player that I built that was just an absolute powerhouse of a monster back. He was only like an 80-some overall, but he borderline took over games because of how strong and how good he was. That specific style of runner is very overpowered in this current version of the game. But overall, I was very impressed with everything that I saw. I hope they fix the issues, and hopefully we get some updates soon. If you enjoyed this video, give me a like. Give me a comment too on my findings. If you guys have had any specific things that you have found, whether it's custom rosters, gameplay, just different variables of this game. I'm enjoying the Maximum product. I really hope they get it rebooted here in 26. It's your boy User. I'm out.